Did you know Martin Luther may never have actually used a hammer? The iconic image of him nailing his 95 Theses to the church door in Wittenberg is legendary, but the real revolution was in his words. On October 31st, 1517, Luther, a troubled Augustinian friar, challenged the church's sale of indulgences, a practice that turned forgiveness into a transaction. His 95 Theses, written resentful of clerical wealth, found Luther's message electrifying. The spark was lit. A theological protest became a mass movement. The Reformation's origins were humble, but its impact would be seismic. Luther's challenge was not just about doctrine, it was about who held the keys to salvation. The world was about to change, and neither Luther nor the church could control what came next. The hammer blow, real or not, echoed far beyond Wittenberg. Luther wasn't the first to challenge the Catholic Church, think John Wycliffe and Jan Hus, but his protests succeeded where others failed. Timing and technology made all the difference. The printing press turned Luther's ideas into a viral sensation, reaching thousands in weeks. Earlier reformers' handwritten manuscripts were easily suppressed. Luther's pamphlets were unstoppable. The political landscape helped too. The Holy Roman Empire was fragmented, and local rulers like Frederick the Wise protected Luther, seeing an opportunity to assert their own power. Luther's message also resonated deeply. Salvation by faith alone, not by rituals or payments, offered spiritual relief to many. Suddenly, salvation was a personal matter, not a transaction mediated by the church. The Reformation's appeal cut across social classes, uniting people in a new vision of faith. Luther's protest became a rallying cry for both spiritual renewal and political autonomy. The church could no longer silence dissent with faith alone. The Reformation was a perfect storm, ideas, technology, and politics converging to reshape Europe. What began as a theological debate became a revolution. The world would never be the same. Once unleashed, Luther's ideas spread like wildfire. The printing press churned out treatises, booklets, and cartoons, making the Reformation the first true media. Reformers traveled, students returned home inspired, and soon the movement leapt beyond Germany. In Switzerland, Ulrich von Zwingli launched his own reforms, stripping away traditions not found in the Bible and transforming the church. The Reformation was no longer just Luther's, it was a continent-wide movement, taking different forms in different places. In many cities, artisans and merchants embraced reform first, pressuring authorities to follow. Sometimes change came peacefully, other times it sparked riots and compromise. The movements appealed to the raw, spiritual freedom for some, and a chance to seize church property for others. Protestantism quickly splintered as reformers disagreed. This one famously clashed with Calvinism. The Reformation's diversity became its hallmark, spawning new branches. What united them was rejection of the unstoppable idea had taken on a life of its own. The Reformation soon gave rise to new, organized churches. Lutheranism, rooted in Luther's teachings, became the state faith in much of northern Germany and Scandinavia, keeping some Catholic traditions, but centering on faith alone and the Bible's authority. John Calvin's movement in Geneva added a new dimension: predestination, God's absolute sovereignty, and a strict moral code. Calvinism spread rapidly, shaping the Presbyterian Church in Scotland, the Huguenots in France, and the Dutch Reformed Church. Calvin's ideas even influenced English Puritanism. By the mid-1600s, Europe's religious map was redrawn. Catholicism, Lutheranism, and Calvinism were all officially recognized. The two were unified replaced by a patchwork of political faiths. This fragmentation Reformation's legacy was a Europe forever changed, divided but also dynamic. The Reformation's break with the old order unleashed a century of turmoil. Religious identity became a matter of life and death, fueling wars, persecution, and suspicion. Protestants were hunted in Catholic lands, power struggles, princes and kings used faith to justify war and consolidate authority. France's wars of religion and St. Bartholomew's Day massacre showed the era's brutality. Communities and families were torn apart, neighbors became enemies, and mercy was in short supply. The struggle was for more than land, it was for the soul of Europe. The conviction that one side held the true faith justified terrible violence. The Age of Empire left scars that would shape Europe for generations. The 30 Years' War was the Reformation's most devastating legacy. What began as a religious conflict with the Holy Roman Empire spiraled into a continent-wide struggle for power. Mercenary armies ravaged Central Europe, leaving famine, disease, and destruction. Populations of German lands plummeted, entire regions were waste. The war's horror made of longing for peace and skepticism about religious violence. The peace of Western their state's religion, and the idea of state sovereignty began. The 30 Years' War marked the end of major religious concerns started to take precedence in international affairs. Europe would never again be united by a single faith. The Reformation transformed the individual relationships in life. Before Scripture was the clergy's domain, locked in Latin and interpreted to the people. Reformers insisted on sola scriptura, Scripture alone as the ultimate authority. Luther's German Bible and other vernacular translations, spread by the Prince of Wales, put the word in ordinary English. This sparked a revolution in literacy and personal faith. All became centers of religious life. To everyone. The Reformation shattered the old alliance between church and state. Protestant rulers seized control of churches, lands, and religious life, laying the groundwork for the modern nation-state. In England, Henry VIII's break with Rome created a national church under royal authority. Across Europe, the church became an arm of the state, not a rival power. The experience of persecution led some groups, like Anabaptists and Huguenots, to argue for freedom of conscience. These ideas traveled to America with Puritans and Quakers, influencing the principle of church-state separation. The Reformation's emphasis on individual conscience helped inspire later movements for liberty and human rights. The seeds of modern democracy were sown in the struggle for religious freedom. The world's understanding of faith, authority, and rights was forever changed. The Reformation didn't just create new denominations, it changed Christianity itself. It fostered a culture of questioning and reform, making the faith more diverse and adaptable, but also more fragmented. The focus on personal faith and Bible shape our world today.